Welcome to the Do Good X podcast, a sanctuary from the entrepreneur grind. Hosts Kimberly Danielle and Stephen Lewis, advocates for impactful entrepreneurship, guide you on the path where purpose meets business. Join us to slow down, reconnect, and explore the challenges of under-resourced entrepreneurs, uncovering the unique journey of building businesses that make a difference. Now, your host.
Welcome to the Do Good X podcast. My name is Stephen Lewis, and I'm a catalyst for positive change in communities and businesses. And for over 2 decades, I've inspired leaders and entrepreneurs to live and work on purpose with intention, faith, and a commitment to their well-being. And I'm joined today with my co-host and colleague, Kimberly. Hey, Kimberly.
Hi, Stephen, and hello to everybody who is tuning in. I am Kimberly Danielle, and I am a community builder, a coach, and a communication strategist who comes from generations of faith-driven leaders and entrepreneurs who believe that our purpose should drive us to contribute to the common good. So, in entrepreneurship, the grind, some people call it hustle, and being an action toward the consistent building and growth of our businesses is celebrated. But what Stephen and I often talk about, especially if you've been listening for a while, we often talk about here the value, the gift, and the invitation to build in the rhythm and the time to just slow down, to be present. And because this is often where clarity for what's next for us and for our businesses surfaces, and where connection to ourselves and our faith can happen. So we are excited to get into today's conversation to explore the intersection of faith, stillness, and discernment, and what that means and what it can look like, and to have a guest to share her experience, her wisdom, and what she offers to the community through her gifts of creating space to slow down and tune in. So today we are joined by Ottavia, who many people know as Tay Bling. Tay is a sound therapist, a wellness educator, and founder of Dear Life Chat, a holistic wellness company focused on emotional health, nervous system regulation, and mindful living. With over a decade of experience, Tay works at the intersection of sound therapy, mindfulness, and emotional intelligence, supporting individuals and organizations navigating high-stress environments. And entrepreneurship can be a high-stress environment. Through her work, she helps people slow down, reconnect with themselves, and build sustainable well-being rooted in both science and intuition. She has facilitated sound therapy experiences for corporate teams, first responders, healthcare professionals, athletes, and creatives. And her work has been featured on television, in national publications, and in wellness spaces across the country. So at the heart of Tay's work is a deep commitment to care, restoration, and inner stillness, ultimately creating space for clarity, healing, and a more grounded way of living and leading. So we are excited to have Tay join us. Thank you for creating the space and time to be here with us.
Well, thank you for having me. I always cringe when people read my bio because I'm like, oh, it's not, at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's like really about the space I can help create for other people. But no, thank you both for having me today.
That is such a consistent response from someone who gives up themselves to create that space for others. So thank you for that. And just to kind of get us started, for people who may have heard that, you do sound therapy, what is sound healing or sound therapy for folks who have never heard of this? How would you explain it?
Yes, that is the majority of the country. Or when I facilitate spaces, it is at least 80% of people that have never heard of it. But essentially, what I do as the sound therapist, or some people call themselves sound healer or a sound practitioner, but it's all the same. We play meditative instruments, and my meditative instrument of choice are singing bowls, but there are many different types of instruments. There are drums, chimes, bells. Your voice is an instrument as well. So, but I choose singing bowls and I play them, and it helps to relax the body, relax the nervous system, and it's just a deep meditation overall. And the practice itself is called a sound bath. So I usually say sound therapy because people hear sound bath and they think I'm going to baptize them sometimes. They think it involves water all the time. And I'm like, no, our bodies are 75% water, and the sounds wash over your body. And that's why we call it a sound bath. So it's just really a deep meditation with live meditative instruments.
So your work focuses on, or I should say, it centers on nervous system regulation and stillness. Can you take us back to the season when you discovered that slowing down wasn't a choice, but actually a necessity?
Yes, so this story is a story that I've told many times on how I got into sound therapy. This was not something that when I grow up, I want to be a sound therapist. It wasn't that. I had never heard of it until I needed it. But I'm originally from Mississippi. I moved to Georgia in 2013. And shortly after I got here, I lost my job within a month. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to stay here because in Atlanta, it's more job opportunities. If I move back home, I'm just going to be stuck in a rut. So I was like, I'm going to thug it out in Georgia. And so I decided to stay. And within maybe another few months, I lost my apartment. So I was evicted and everything was put out on the street. And it's so funny because right now we're quote unquote prepping for an ice storm, but this was the year that Atlanta had that major, like, snowmageddon is what they called it. And I got evicted that next week, right after that. So there was still snow on the ground. All my stuff was in the parking lot. I left. And also the day before this happened, my car stopped working. So I didn't have a car and I didn't have a place to stay. And I had two kids. And I had to make sure they still got to school, that the teachers, social workers didn't know we were homeless. And I actually went to get a U-Haul, and the U-Haul place was like right down the street. And I told my neighbor, I was like, get my kids off the school bus for me. Don't let them see our stuff in the parking lot. I'm gonna run and get a U-Haul. I got a ride to the U-Haul place, came back. As I'm pulling up in the U-Haul, I see people running with all of my stuff, just scattering. And everybody had taken my kids' school uniforms, their toys, TVs, my couch, everything was gone. It was chaos. And so at that moment, I had a choice to make. Like, am I going to sit here and cry about this, or am I going to figure out where we're going to sleep tonight? So I got us a hotel for the night, and I eventually got my car back. But during that process of being homeless for 6 months, where we were either sleeping in my car or different homeless shelters, or if I had enough money, because I eventually did get another job, but it was just part time, because I don't know what it is, the obsession with companies that just want to keep you hourly so they don't have to like give you benefits and stuff. So I was like stuck at like working on like 25 hours a week instead of my normal 40. And a year goes by, life is great, life is perfect. And then I started having heart difficulties and like panic attacks and heart palpitations, a lot of things with my chest area. And it was grief that was piled up right here in my chest, which I didn't correlate it to those emotions yet, but it was grief, and the heaviness is what allowed me to pay attention to what was happening to my body. And after seeing several doctors, and the doctors wanted to give me all of these medications, and I was just like, I'm not feeling all this medication, not to take for the rest of my life anyway. And so I wanted to try a holistic way to get stress out of my body. And that's where the meditation came in at. So I was forced to slow down. It wasn't, it was definitely a necessity at that time, but it was a year and a half later So like the stress didn't show up in the moment of being homelessness because I was just focused on getting the kids to school and just maintaining some sort of consistency and balance for them. And then once we got stable, that's when everything was like, knock, knock. Okay, now let's take care of what happened a year and a half ago. So I forgot the original question, but I hope I answered it. Um, but yeah, that's how it happened. It was just life. Yeah, life just happened.
So, I mean, just listening to you talk about your story, which thank you for sharing your story. I know that it creates a great sense of empathy and knowing what sound therapy, sound healing, sound baths can do for the body and slowing down. And also those signs that came up in yourself even a year later when things were perfect. What do we risk within ourselves or spiritually when we override those signals that show up in our body to pay attention, to rest or whatever it might be?
Well, you risk losing your life essentially. Because stress, long-term stress, chronic stress can lead to bigger health challenges. So when you don't slow down, you risk it possibly getting worse. But on a lighter side, you you put yourself in a position to really find out what you're made of. So it's risky all around, but long term, yes, it could be worse for you with more health challenges that could shorten your life. But also, this whole journey led me to my purpose and to a path that I didn't initially like dream for myself. So it's a risky thing, but it still has like a silver lining, if I can say that.
So, Tay, you work with people who are trained to stay on, responsive, alert all the time. What resistance do you see often when when you first invite these types of individuals to actually slow down?
They don't believe that it works because they're just thinking goals. So yeah, I have a lot of people look at me like I'm crazy a lot of the time. So I think the reason I've gotten so far with what I do, it is my personality. Like I can make you believe that the grass is blue right now. Because if I believe it, I'm gonna make you believe it. Because I'm very, very passionate about everything, especially when it comes to health. Like that is just it. I'm obsessed with health in general, whether it's going to the gym or emotional. I think emotional and mental health is like my superpower of knowing so much about it. And but yeah, a lot of people don't believe me when I say you're gonna feel better at the end of this sound bad. Like I've never had anyone said to me that they hated a sound bad. It's
Not
just
one? Not one. Not one?
oh no, not to my face anyway.
Okay, okay.
But no, I haven't, but getting them to surrender, it is very hard for, especially when I've done things for like the first responder community, like getting a detective to lay down on a yoga mat is difficult. But once they experience it, I always have returning clients. So it's just really helping people get out of their head about it and just trying something new.
I want to follow up on that. So, can you share an example of someone who was resistant before as they entered into the space? And on the flip side, what benefit they walked away with? Of course, you talked about you get the returning clients, but what happens for them in their experience that brings them back when they started resisting it in the first place?
Usually it's the best rest they've ever had. Like it's a deeper, because a lot of people do fall asleep during a sound bath. And I think the most consistent response I get is that it's the deepest rest that they've ever experienced. And they've never physically felt their body release. because we have like a lot of tension in our shoulders and our neck and lower back. And I've had people that have had at the beginning of the sound bath having a migraine. And by the end of the sound bath, the migraine is gone, or they don't have the back pain, or they don't feel as stiff. So I think the biggest response is they feel their body shift and they want to experience more of that.
So, you blend science and intuition in your work. So, how do these two inform each other rather than compete with one another in your work?
So I think everything is intuition led. I think the scientists that have all of these theories, it was their intuition that led them to test it. So you can't have any backing of science if someone wasn't intuitively led to test the theory or to, you know, put the test tubes together. Like anytime there's a scientist, it's because they had an aha moment, and it was the aha moment. It was their intuition that led them to try something different or to test something different. So it's never going to be a competition with science and intuition, because the intuition drives you to get to the science-based data, and then just like um trying it out over time with different people and test subjects and stuff like that. So there's never a competition. You need them both, but it's the intuition that starts everything.
So, one of the things I've read is that you talk about stillness as a gateway to clarity. And I'm curious what happens when we create space for silence.
You turn off all the noise, because, everybody can have the TV on in the background or scrolling on social media or getting bombarded with all these text messages from family, friends, emails. But when you're completely silent, I think a lot of people are afraid of solitude because they're going to learn exactly who they are when things are silent. But the silence is so necessary. Like during that period of being homeless, it was very isolating because, for one, I was embarrassed. I didn't want to tell anybody we were living in a homeless shelter. Like I kind of kept it to myself, and I kind of made it an adventure for my kids. They were like, "Where are we gonna sleep tonight?" And like the thing about homeless shelters, because my kids were so young, there were a lot of children in the homeless shelters. So the kids were like, excited to meet new friends every time we switched shelters. And while my kids were okay, I was very isolated. But it was in that moment that I realized, who I was. And, I didn't allow the pain of it to shape me in a bitter way. So overall, everybody needs stillness. Everybody needs silence. It leads to more clarity than you think. I think we just don't take the time. We don't carve out time in our calendar to just be still. And that's why sometimes the stillness comes. Um, it's like a reckoning. It's like, when it happens to people, they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. But then at the end of the isolation period, you know exactly what to do. So you need it. We all need it. Whether you realize it in the beginning, but you'll definitely know you needed it by the end of the isolation period.
Kimberly and I have both been beneficiaries of your work, and you've been very successful in what you do. And so I'm curious, what does it look like to build a business and a life that honors both your calling and your purpose, faith, and rest or stillness?
Oh, it looks chaotic in the beginning. It looks like, what are we doing? um, I think I've had many careers over the years, because I think I'm just a free spirit. I like to just try a lot of things. I think that's just who I am. But building this practice first, because it was sound therapy was just for you in the beginning. It was never intended to be a business. I was comfortable with my day job. But it came at a time when I needed it, and then because I just love helping people, I think that's just I think I got that from my grandmother, but like when you get these character traits from your family, so like from my grandmother, she was very caring, but for her, it was like with cooking. Like anybody could come to her house and get a plate. Doesn't matter if you're family or not. That's just how it was back in Mississippi. And I think cooking was her practice. And so sound therapy, meditation for myself was my practice. And so I just wanted to share it. And then it turned into a business. And then when I realized, okay, there are people that are taking me seriously with this, I was like, okay, well, maybe I need to get a little website or something. Let me throw some social media up. So the business part is totally separate from the purpose and the practice part. The business is just for visibility, just to introduce it to other people. But at the end of the day, I do a sound bath and meditate for myself every day. So it's my entire identity outside of social media. It's my identity in my home with my children, with the people that know me personally. So it's not much separation. It's just, it turned into a business and it just became bigger than life. And I was just like, well, okay, well, let's rock with it. Let's see what happens. And I really just take things day by day. I don't have a blueprint. There aren't many people that do sound therapy as a business. And so I, I just, I was trial and error. I just take it day by day.
That's good. I mean, you have an inspiring story and you have an incredible business. And for our listeners, if you're not familiar with sound therapy and you need an introduction, we highly recommend you to check out Tay and more of her work online, and we'll make sure we put those in the show notes as well. So it's time for us to turn to our resource roundup, where we gather tools and tips and resources that can help entrepreneurs build strong and sustainable businesses. So we'd like to ask you a couple of questions with regards to that. And so for an entrepreneur who feels consistently anxious or who may feel disconnected, what's one small practice that they can begin today to reconnect with stillness and themselves?
You know, and this is something I do, and it may seem so simple, but take a shower with the lights off, or take a bath with the lights off. Or if you like are scared, like afraid of the dark or whatever, like a little nightlight or something. Um, when I tell you that immediately will ground me after having a very long day of like seeing clients and doing events and retreats and things, I'll come home and I'll wash the day off. And I'll do it in the dark, or I have like meditation music. Sometimes I'll have meditation music, but I would say start with something that is not like you are changing your entire schedule to create stillness, right? Like you're just taking a shower, but just turn the lights off. And it's going to be even more relaxing, and that's usually the first thing I recommend to people that don't know how to sit down and meditate. Like just create some stillness in the shower, something that you're already going to do every day, or take care of your hygiene. Like you're already going to do this, but just tweak it a little bit. So I would say start with that. I know that's probably not what you were expecting me to say, but yeah,
I think that's
try that.
great. I love that you are integrating what is already happening for someone, which makes it easy to do this practice. And I've actually done this. I do this quite often in the morning, not at the end of the day, but in the morning, and I love it as a way of grounding and clearing myself for the day and centering. So you have someone here that has practiced it, so give it a shot. Tuning in, it can be very helpful. Uh, and also for listeners who are unfamiliar with sound therapy, what is a simple way that they might be able to experience its benefits and that might spark more curiosity and desire for more?
Well, I have an album. that is on Spotify and Apple Music and all of that. So if you want to hear what the sound bath sounds like, I recommend, even if it's not my album, there are plenty of YouTube videos of people playing singing bowls or just meditation in general. Um, so I recommend just, starting with listening to it. And then if it moves you, the live experience is so much better.
Good. So, what are one or two practices that founders can do to rebuild their trust in the intuition if they've been disconnected from it for quite some time?
Um, a silent retreat. And a silent retreat doesn't necessarily mean going to a silent retreat. There are silent retreats. They're called Vipassana, where you go to this place and you don't talk, you don't listen to any music, you don't read. It's a completely silent retreat. That's one way, but you can do a silent retreat within. And what I mean is, don't ask anybody for a second opinion. Don't ask anybody for feedback. Don't scroll on social media. Like, get silent so you can hear yourself. Because although social media is good in certain ways, we subconsciously compare ourselves to people on social media, especially if they're in the same field as you. So, me personally, I don't follow any sound healers on social media unless they're my students. Um, and that's so I don't really follow any wellness pages in general. I intentionally do that because I don't want to subconsciously compare myself to what somebody else is doing. Like, it's not about lack of support, it's just me protecting, my own knowledge and my own journey, to where everything that I put out, it's directly from me and from my intuition and from what I want to do. So when you feel disconnected and you don't know, like, which way to go, turn off all the noise. Don't call your friend. Don't say, "Hey girl, I just need to talk to yourself." Journal, write about it. Um, yeah, I think people just need to get silent more and use it as a superpower instead of making it feel so isolating and lonely. Like, I get my best ideas when there's nobody at the house but me. I don't have the TV on and I'm just chilling on the couch. I'm journaling. And it's just like these aha moments happen when nothing is going on. And so, like as a business owner, there are seasons when we have slow periods where it's like, this month you may have made like all this money in sales, and next month is like where do people go? Use those months to brainstorm and to, create a space to start from scratch almost. So yeah, people just got to embrace silence more.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really good. It's so easy to fill the silence with so many things, but a lot can come from just being being still. So thank you for what you have shared. If you're listening in this conversation, it just sparked something in you to think, I might need more space, more support, or clarity as you build your business. Do Get X is always here to help. We provide you with a community and programs designed to support founders who are growing businesses that do good without burning themselves out. And a part of that is about being present and being still and making that a practice. You can visit dogetx.org to learn more and see how to get involved. And as Stephen said earlier, if you're interested in working with Tay, you can find her information in the show notes. We are going to move to our last segment, off the cuff. We have a series of questions that we are going to ask Tay, and she hasn't seen these questions. So Tay, first thought is your best thought. Just share what comes up. My first question is, what deep wisdom have you discovered from helping others to be still and reconnect with themselves?
The deep wisdom is that you already have the answers within yourself. That's it. So, Dear Life Chat original slogan was Dear Life, what can we chat about today? And it is life is questioned, life provides the answer. So, Dear Life Chat initially was just my blog of me blogging about um my life in general and what was happening, and it was like my online journal, and that's how it started, and then eventually it morphed into the sound therapy business. But we already have the answers. Like sometimes it may take a therapist or a mentor to like pull it out of you, but I'm not telling you anything new. I'm just like, buffing it off. Like, you see, it's right here. So the deep wisdom is that we already have the answers. We don't get silent to listen to it. It's always talking to.
What is the greatest lesson that you've learned on your entrepreneurial journey?
The greatest lesson is be okay when people tell you no, because sometimes I'll get in my feelings like if I wanted to book a venue or book a client, and like say for instance they don't have it in their budget at this time to do a wellness thing, and they just can't do it. And the entrepreneur side of me that has bills and a child in college paying his tuition is like, no, I need this sale. But over time, I've learned that that no leads to a bigger chunk of money, essentially. So being okay with the no's, like just be okay with it, because usually the no is going to lead to a bigger yes,
Hmm.
always.
How has your faith shaped the way that you build and lead your business?
Oh, so I think growing up, um, I grew up very, very, very Christian. My mother is a pastor. And I think my journey growing up was always, go back to the source, go back to the source. And then I found in this entire journey that um I'm also a version of source, and that I have the answers in me. And sometimes the answers are never on the outside of us. So, like, my faith looks a little different now. It's like I'm more spiritual now because I know that I don't have to go to an actual building to get the answers. I can, again, the solitude, that's going to be my theme probably forever. It's like if you get quiet enough, you can hear the inner voice, and the inner voice is always connected to the higher power. And it's just like we always give life to what we believe in. So it doesn't matter what faith you are, whether you're Christian, Islam, or Buddhist, like we all give life to what we believe in. And when you give life to what you believe in, it magnifies based on how you nurture it. So if I nurture my ancestors are going to give me the answers. If I nurture my guardian angels or the archangels or the universe or the stars, it doesn't matter what you believe in. I think faith is universal. And I think the thing that I dislike about religion is that we separate things so much, when it's just like we're all one at the end of the day. So you you grow and you evolve based on what you nurture. And that could be any version of faith. It just has to be personal to you.
How do you navigate challenges and build resilience?
Oof. I lose hair. Um my real hair is probably more gray than I'd like to admit. Um, I think you just have to trust yourself at the end of the day. We're not supposed to be here to struggle. Struggle is necessary sometimes to um put you in a new state of mind to where you trust yourself more or you open yourself up to more. But resilience is just, it's just trial and error. It's nothing you can do. You just have to act in the moment. And that's based on what you already have within you. Like again, being in a homeless shelter, I had never been in a homeless shelter, obviously. I had only seen things like on movies, and it is not like the movies. But my common sense taught me a lot in those moments. And so the resilience, it just comes. It shows up when it needs to show up. And how you handle things moving forward just adds layers to the resiliency. And that's basically how you inspire other people by how well you did, and so also how well you did not do, you know?
How much of your success do you attribute to your faith versus your own grit, will, or hustle?
I think it's just a whole melting pot. Like, I can't really give it a full percentage of, 20% faith or 80% this. I think it's just a melting pot. It's just all in there mixed up together. And I think some days the faith may be higher, and then some days, the grit and the willpower, may be higher. It just really depends on what's happening that day. But I think it all flourishes together.
That's good. So complete this sentence. Because of my entrepreneurial endeavors, businesses, communities, or individuals will be more able to do what?
Do their best, grow their best, be their best, live their best life,
Mm.
their best dear life.
Well, with that, we'll have to bring it to a close. And I just want to say thank you, Tay, for all the magic and the goodness that you bring to the world through your gifts and through your sound therapy. It is truly a gift, and the world is better off because of people like you who are doing the work that you're doing in the world. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
If you are tuning in, we thank you for being here with us, and hopefully this has created a space for you to really think about how you might slow down, and not just think about it today or in this moment where you're listening to this podcast episode, but how you make it an intentional practice, because slowing down can benefit you and it can benefit your business as well. So we hope you join us again next time. And until then, be well and do good.
Thank you for listening to the Do Good X podcast. To continue the conversation or access our resources, visit www.dogoodx.org. Join us again for conversations that will nourish your soul, ignite your dreams, and empower you to build an impactful business, one intentional step at a time. Until then, keep striving, thriving, and doing good.